We're going to graph parabolas in vertex form. So vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So in this form, the vertex of our parabola, so if we look at a parabola, it's kind of U-shaped. And the vertex would be the bottom part of our U. So it would be where we have the h value, x minus h, the k value, what's added on. The axis of symmetry is where x is equal to h. So the axis of symmetry goes right down through the vertex, and it just tells you that if you're at a particular y value, the distance from the axis of symmetry over to the right side of your graph will be the same distance on the same y value from the axis of symmetry to the left side of your graph. So this distance will be the same as this distance. Same thing if you went up a little. This distance should be exactly the same as this distance. So that's just what the line of symmetry is. And it's x equals your h value because it goes through the x-axis at the vertex where your x value is also h. Okay, so we're just going to try a couple problems. We're going to identify the vertex and the axis of symmetry of each function and then graph the parabola. So in this first one, we have f of x equals 2 times x minus 3 squared plus 1. Remember, f of x just means y. So our vertex would be at 3, 1. Our axis of symmetry is where x equals 3. Okay, so I'm just going to graph that. My vertex is where x is 3, y is 1. And my axis of symmetry, I'm just going to draw it, goes down through where x is 3. So it goes straight vertically down through our vertex. Okay, so I need to figure out, is my parabola going up? Is it steep? Is it wide? Is it going down? So I'm just going to pick two x values, one on either side of my vertex, and I'm just going to plug it into the table. This is the most basic type of way to graph a parabola. So we have x values and we will get out a y value. So I'm just going to do one x value away on either side. So I'm going to pick where x is 2 and where x is 4. And I'm just going to plug those x values into our equation that we're given and see what they equal. So we have y equals 2 times, our first one is where x is 2, minus 3 squared plus 1. We simplify this, we get 2 times 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1 plus 1. Gives me 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then I'm also going to plug in where x is 4. Y equals 2 times 4 minus 3 squared plus 1. Gives me 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Add 1 on. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So I'm going to graph those points. So where x is 2, y is 3. Where x is 4, y is 3. So you can see with the line of symmetry, oh, that was a little crooked. All right, so where the y value is 3, if you go to from the axis of symmetry to the right of your graph onto your graph, it's 1 unit away. And if you go from the line of symmetry to the left towards the graph, it's also 1 unit away. So the graph stays the same distance away on either side of that axis of symmetry. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so this one's slightly different. We have x plus 2, meaning since the formula is x minus our h value, only way to get plus is if our h value was negative 2. So that means the x value is negative 2. And we have minus 2 on the outside, so our y coordinate is also negative 2. Axis of symmetry is where x equals -2. So I'm going to graph that. Vertex is -2, -2. And axis of symmetry is where x equals -2. And so I'm just going to draw a dotted line down through it. From here, I'm going to pick some x values to plug in, get y out. Again, I'm just going to pick 2 points. That's all I really need. So one to the left would be -3. One to the right would be -1. I'm going to plug those into our equation. We have y equals -3 times, first x value is -3, plus 2 squared minus 2. -3 times -3 plus 2 is -1. -1 squared is +1. Because think of it, -1 times -1 is +1. Y equals -3 times 1 is -3. -3 minus 2 is -5. One more, plug in -1. Y equals -3 times -1 plus 2 squared minus 2. Just going to simplify this side. -1 plus 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Okay, so -3 times 1 is -3. -3 minus 2 is -5. So I'm going to graph those 2 points. So when x is -3, y is -5. When x is -1, y is also -5. So this time our graph is flipped over, which was caused by multiplying by a negative on the outside. That's what flipped it upside down. All right, so those weren't too bad. I'm going to have you try 2 on your own. So first, find the vertex, find the axis of symmetry, then graph, and then I'll have you go through the answers with me. All right, so the first one, our vertex, is 1, 2. Axis of symmetry is where x equals 1. So that means I'm going to graph this where x is 1, y is 2. Axis of symmetry is where x is 1. All right, I'm going to plug in x values, get out y. I'm going to plug in where x is 0 and where x is 2. This one I'm going to do in my head. Hopefully you did the math on your own. I'm going to plug in 0. 0 minus 1 is -1. -1 squared is +1. 1 times 1/2 is 1/2. And 1/2 plus 2 is 2.5, or 2.5, same thing. Plug in 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 squared is 1. 1 times 1/2 is 1/2. And 1/2 plus 2 is 2.5. So hopefully you got both of those. So when x is 0, y is 2.5. When x is 2, y is 2.5. So this one's really flattened out compared to the other ones we did. So I'm just going to kind of create my U shape, but I'm going to make sure I pass through those points. I'm going to put arrows on the end because I know they're continuing. So it's flattened out because we multiplied it by 1/2. All right, let's do last one. We have the x value has to be -2. Y value is -1. Axis of symmetry is where x equals -2. So I'm going to graph what I have so far. X is -2, y is -1. So our axis of symmetry is through where x is -2. All right, pick 2 x values. I'm going to pick -3 and -1. Get out y. And again, I'm just going to do the math. I'm not going to write it out, but I'll go through it with you to make sure that you did it correctly. Plug in -3. -3 plus 2 is -1. -1 squared is +1. +1 times -2 is -2. -2 minus 1 is -3. Plug in -1. -1 plus 2 is +1. 1 squared is 1. 1 times -2 is -2. And -2 minus 1 is -3. So graph those points. When x is -3, y is -3. When x is -1, y is -3. So connect those. And again, my line's a little crooked, but that's all right. And the arrows mean it continues going down in that general direction. Right? Hopefully you were able to graph the parabolas.